Tom, thanks very much. I am really privileged to be here this morning, and I want to start off my remarks by extending a thank you to the Farmers Union and the people in this room. You all work every single day to help those who struggle mightily to keep working the land, and I want to express my thanks to you for that advocacy. Those folks out in small town America, those folks in rural communities across this great land really depend on the Farmers Union. You have never disappointed them. You continue to speak with passion about their concerns, and you're a voice that certainly needs to be heard today in America. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you personally for the role that the Farmers Union played in my political career. I'm convinced, Tom, that in 1998, when I ran for governor as a Democrat in Iowa, we hadn't had a Democratic governor in 30 years in my state, and I was 23 points behind with just a couple of weeks to go. When you're that far behind, you have it's sometimes difficult to find friends, but you know, Gary Lamb and Chris Peterson and a lot of other folks associated with the Iowa Farmers Union were there to help me. Dusky Terry, who was Dixon Terry's son, was an integral part of my campaign, and without that help, I'm sure I would not have been successful. So I owe a good deal of my political career to the folks from Iowa who are in this room and the Farmers Union folks from throughout the state. And I want to acknowledge Tom. As we all know, he has got one more week. As he indicated to me in the back, he just wants to survive this week before he starts his new challenge. Tom, I want to thank you for your leadership, for your friendship. You have been a forceful leader for this organization nationally. You have helped steer the nation through a difficult and challenging discussion about the Farm Bill of 2008. And I have no doubt that you're going to be as passionate and forceful and energetic promoting biofuels and renewable energy for all of us. So please join me in thanking Tom for his leadership. So yesterday I looked at my briefing book, and it said I was supposed to speak for 10 to 15 minutes on the agenda for USDA. Well, I'm going to try, but I'm going to have to speak kind of quickly to cover all of the issues. You know, first and foremost, you have to understand the way in which an agenda gets shaped in a job like this. Obviously, you have to listen to the person who appointed you. And President Obama was very clear about what he wanted the USDA to do during the next 4 years. He was very interested in making sure that our youngsters in particular got access to more nutritious food as we deal with the reauthorization of the school nutrition programs. He wanted to make sure that the USDA was advocating for an expansion of renewable fuel and energy opportunities in the countryside, and he also wanted us to work very hard to encourage farming to begin the process of weaning itself off of its reliance on fossil fuel and looking for creative ways to energize our farms and ranches. Now, that would be enough of an agenda, but then on top of that, current events. We had the peanut situation in Georgia and Texas, which creates a real focus on food safety, and we all know about the fiscal and financial crisis this country faces today, which is now beginning to ripple out throughout the economy and certainly in rural communities. That would be enough if it weren't for the past sins that we have to attend to. The fact that our Forest Service has not been adequately tended to over the course of the last several years, and we're seeing the results of that in difficulties with water in western the United States and fires that consume vast quantities of our forests. A civil rights record, which is unfortunately one of the more shameful aspects of the USDA's history. That would be enough were it not for the congressional mandates of implementing a farm bill. And on top of that, the Ag Census comes out and gives us 5 major trends that have to be addressed in future policy. First, the rather significant increase in the number of small income farms in the last 5 years. We had 108,000 new operations start in the last 5 years. These are very small farms, most likely participating in raising specialty crops. but they may be an important aspect of the future of farming and ranching in this country. We saw an increase in the large income farms, about 41,000 new operations with sales in excess of $500,000 a year. But that came at the expense, in part, of those in the middle. We lost about 80,000 farm operations between $10,000 in sales and $500,000 in sales. Now, some of those migrated to larger operations, but the reality is we did, in fact, lose some of those mid-sized operations. With the exception of this particular audience, the rest of farming is aging rather rapidly. It's rather startling that in 5 years, the average age of America's farmers and ranchers went from 55 years of age to 57 years of age. And finally, the notion that we have to rely so heavily on off-farm income. Of the 2.2 million operators in America today, 900,000 of them, 900,000 of those operators, not their spouses, not their family members, the operators, are required to work at least 200 days off the farm to make ends meet. So all of that combines and directs the agenda for the USDA over the next 4 years. Let me suggest first and foremost, despite the challenges, despite the problems, despite the fiscal concerns, despite the financial challenges that this country faces, USDA intends on promoting an aggressive and progressive agenda over the next 4 years. We're going to start by promoting the fresh fruits and vegetable growing that takes place in this country so that our children can indeed get a nutritious meal at school. We have a school reauthorization bill that we believe needs to have more resources put into it, invested into it, so that schools can purchase fruits and vegetables and put them in youngsters' diets. We also think it's important for us to continue the work of establishing local and regional distribution opportunities for those smaller producers so that we can indeed encourage buy fresh, buy local. Tom mentioned the cool legislation. In a way, I think Americans are becoming more and more concerned about where their food comes from, and the more closer to home it comes from, the more comfortable they are. We need to help expand retail opportunities by having distribution centers throughout the country, and we can do that with resources from the Farm Bill. We obviously need to continue to support the expansion of biofuels and renewable fuel opportunities in rural America. First, we have a debate and a need for your voice to join with Tom's and others to encourage the EPA to take a close look at the blend rate on ethanol. We can, we believe, move fairly quickly to move that rate up from 10% to maybe 12 or 13% in the interim, and then take an even further jump to 15% or 20% over the course of the next couple of years. We need to provide additional assistance and help for those processing operations that are on the edge. It has been difficult. The most efficient operations are working on the slimmest of margins. And so USDA is working with processing facilities, ethanol production facilities throughout the country as they look at financing in the long term, trying to figure out ways to use our loan guarantee support to make it a little bit easier to get that loan to extend operations. And we also want to take a look at working with the Department of Energy as it institutes the Recovery and Reinvestment Act to expand energy opportunities in this country. We're going to have to work with rural communities throughout the country to expand transmission lines so that we can get that renewable fuel that can be produced in so many parts of the country that are represented in this room today to many of the metropolitan areas that are in need of power, bringing economic vitality to rural America and power and energy to urban America. In light of the fact that we have off-farm job opportunities that are so vital to the future of farming and ranching in this country, it is important and incumbent upon USDA to be very aggressive in rural development. You're going to see a very aggressive effort in terms of the Recovery and Reinvestment Act from USDA. We're going to put the money to work immediately. We're going to announce today 437 water and wastewater projects that are going to employ tens of thousands of people across the country to create the modern infrastructure that will allow our small towns to be able to attract business